Welcome back to another episode of English Without Limit. I'm Julia, and I'm really glad you're here with me. Whether you're walking, commuting, cooking, or just relaxing at home, thank you for choosing to spend this moment improving your English. Today, we're diving into something that might seem small but can make a big difference in how natural and confident you sound when you speak. It's called question intonation. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said a sentence in English, and the person listening looked confused? Or maybe they answered you, but not in the way you expected. You might have said something like, "You're coming," but their response didn't quite match, and you thought, wait, I used the right words. So what went wrong? That's exactly what we're going to explore today. Here's something many learners don't realize. Even if your grammar is perfect and your vocabulary is strong, your message might still not come through clearly. If your intonation doesn't match your intention, and this is especially true when you're asking questions. I learned this firsthand. A few years ago, I was studying another language. I memorized the words. I practiced the grammar. I felt ready. Then I asked someone a question and they just stared at me, like I was making a strange statement. That's when I realized words alone are not enough. How you say them matters. Your tone, your rhythm, the melody of your voice, these are powerful tools in real communication. And that's what English Without Limit is all about. Not chasing perfection, but learning how to connect more naturally. So, let's talk about question intonation. If you're like many of my students, you probably know how to form questions like, "Do you like coffee?" Or, "Where do you live?" But here's the key. If your voice doesn't rise at the end of, "Do you like coffee?" it might not even sound like a question. That one small shift, rising or falling tone, can completely change how your message is understood. And when that happens, people might get confused. Or worse, they might think you're being rude. Even if your grammar is perfect, let's fix that together today. It's a small detail, but it has a big impact. I want you to start noticing this in daily life. Listen to how native speakers ask questions. Watch movies. Listen to interviews. You'll hear it. The voice rises at the end of yes/no questions and falls at the end of WH questions. That rise or fall communicates more than the words themselves. It signals curiosity. It signals emotion. It shows you're asking, not just speaking. And the best part? When you start copying that rhythm, your English begins to feel more alive, more expressive, more fluent. Now, before we go deeper, if you've ever felt unsure about how your questions sound in English, you're not alone. That's why I'm here to help you build confidence, step by step. And if this topic resonates with you, consider subscribing to English Without Limit. We release fluency tips every week, all designed to help you speak with more clarity, more connection, and more confidence. Let me share a story just to lighten the mood. When I was practicing French, I walked into a little cafe in Paris. I asked what I thought was a question, but the person behind the counter just said yes and walked away. I stood there confused. Later, I realized my words were right, but my intonation was flat. It didn't sound like I was asking anything at all. And that's when it hit me. Language is music. It has rhythm. It has melody. And when you don't use it, your message might get lost. Now think about English. Someone says, "Are you okay?" with a rising tone. It sounds like real concern, but say it flatly, "Are you okay?" Suddenly, it feels cold, or even sarcastic. Same words, different tone, completely different message. That's the power of intonation. And don't worry, if this feels hard at first, you're not supposed to know this instinctively. Most language classes barely mention it. At best, you get a tiny note saying, the voice usually rises in yes/no questions, but that's not enough. We need examples. We need repetition. We need practice. Let's try it now. Say this sentence out loud. Do you like music? Now, say it again, first with a rising tone, like you're really curious. Then with a flat tone, like you're just repeating something. Can you hear the difference? Can you feel the difference? That feeling, that shift in energy, that's the magic of intonation. Some of my students have told me they were afraid to exaggerate their voice. They didn't want to sound silly, but the truth is, not using intonation makes your English sound robotic. So go ahead, raise your voice at the end of your questions. It's not silly, it's how English works, and it helps people understand you faster. When I work with students from all over Madrid, Seoul, Cairo, Istanbul, they often have great vocabulary, but their voice stays at the same level. Once we work on intonation, everything changes. They sound more confident, more natural, more expressive. And guess what? People respond better to them. So as we continue today, don't just listen to the words I'm saying, listen to how I'm saying them. Notice the rise and fall. Try to copy it. Replay this episode. Practice it, because the more you play with it, the more it becomes part of how you speak. And once it becomes natural, you'll wonder how you ever spoke without it. Now let's go deeper. Let's break this into two patterns. Rising intonation used for yes/no questions. Falling intonation used for WH questions. Examples. Are you ready? Rising. What time is it? Falling. Try those now. Can you hear the difference? Now try this. Do you want some coffee? Say it with a rising tone, sounds polite, curious. Now say it flat suddenly, it might sound annoyed or uninterested. Just that little shift in pitch changes everything. So I want you to start noticing these patterns in your daily life. Watch how English speakers ask questions. Listen to interviews. Repeat what you hear. And here's a great tip. Record yourself. Take a simple sentence like, "Are you busy?" Say it with a rising tone, then with a flat or falling tone. Play it back. Which one actually sounds like a question? That's how you train your ear and your voice. Now remember, you don't need to sound like a movie actor. Just aim for clarity. Even small changes in intonation can make your English easier to understand and make you feel more confident when you speak. Some people think using tone is dramatic, but actually, the opposite is true. If your voice doesn't change at all, that's when it sounds strange. Think about your own language. Your voice naturally goes up and down without thinking about it. It should be the same in English. It's not about acting. It's about expressing. And it starts with learning the music of English. Let me leave you with this. If you've been focusing on grammar and vocabulary, that's amazing. You've built a strong base. Now it's time to add the next layer, the rhythm, the music, the feeling. When your intonation matches your intention, your English becomes powerful, not just correct, but real. And that's what fluency is all about. Let me leave you with this thought. If you've been focusing only on grammar and vocabulary, that's great. You've built a strong foundation. But now it's time to add that final layer, the music of your voice. That's what brings your English to life. And it starts with something as simple as how you ask a question. When your intonation matches your intention, your English becomes not just correct, but powerful. When we talk about sounding more natural, in English, one of the most powerful tools you can master is question intonation. And luckily, you don't need to learn dozens of different patterns to get started. There are really just two core intonation patterns to focus on: rising intonation and falling intonation. If you understand how these two work and when to use them, you'll already sound more fluent, more confident, and much easier to understand. Let's start with rising intonation. This happens when your voice goes up at the end of a sentence. It's very common in yes/no questions. For example, if I say, "Are you ready?" and my voice rises at the end, you immediately know I'm asking a question that expects a yes or no answer. Try saying that out loud. "Are you ready?" Can you feel your voice lifting at the end? That rising pitch is what signals that you're asking, not telling. Now imagine saying the same words, but with a flat or falling voice. "Are you ready?" It doesn't feel like a real question anymore. It might even sound like you're making a statement, or assuming the other person is already ready. That's how sensitive English is to tone. Just a small change in the rise or fall of your voice can shift how your message is understood. Here's another example. "Do you want some coffee?" That rising sound at the end invites a yes or no answer. If I said it with a falling tone, "Do you want some coffee?" it might sound like I'm not really asking. I could be annoyed, impatient, or just making a comment. This can lead to confusion, especially when you're trying to be polite or friendly. In English, the rising tone adds that sense of openness. It shows curiosity or interest, and it gives the listener room to respond. On the other side, we have falling intonation. This is when your voice goes down at the end of a sentence. It's the most common pattern used in WH questions that begin with who, what, where, when, why, or how. For example, "What time is it?" or "Where are you going?" Try saying those out loud and notice the way your voice drops at the end. That falling tone signals that you're asking for specific information, not just a yes or no. Let's look at a few more examples. Why are you late? How did you do that? When is the meeting? All of these have falling intonation. Your voice comes down slightly at the end, giving the sentence a clear, complete feeling. In these cases, you're not just checking if something is true. You're actively looking for details. The falling tone helps your listener know you're serious about getting an answer. Let's begin by understanding what I mean by sing-song. Let me show you what this sounds like with a few everyday examples. Take the sentence, "Do you want coffee?" If you say it with a flat tone, "Do you want coffee?" it sounds like you're making a statement or maybe giving an order. But if you let your voice rise slightly at the end, "Do you want coffee?" it suddenly becomes an inviting, friendly question. That little sing-song quality makes all the difference. Let's try another one. Is it raining? Try saying it out loud first in a flat tone, then again, lifting your voice softly at the end, like a gentle tune. Is it raining? You'll notice right away that the second version sounds more natural, more like how native speakers talk. You don't need to overdo it. The goal is not to sound musical, but to introduce just enough melody so your listener knows you're asking a question. I often tell my students, don't be afraid to play with your voice. Learning English isn't just about words, it's about rhythm, sound, and feeling. Intonation is what makes your speech come alive. Without it, Even correct sentences can sound robotic or confusing. Here's how you can start practicing this sing-song trick. Choose 5 yes or no questions you might use in your daily life. Write them down. For example, do you like it? Are you hungry? Is he at home? Should we go now? Can I help you? Now say each one out loud slowly. As you reach the final word or syllable, let your voice rise just a little, as if you were singing a soft note. It doesn't have to be dramatic, just enough to sound natural and curious. Repeat each question 3 or 4 times. Focus on how it feels. You might notice your mouth and throat adjusting slightly. That's great, it means your body is learning how to shape the sound. To help train your ear, you can also record yourself. Use your phone or computer. Say each question first with a flat tone, then with rising intonation. Listen back and compare. You'll start to notice what sounds more natural, and you'll become more aware of how intonation changes the emotional tone of a sentence. I remember a student from Bangkok who used to ask questions like, "Can you check this for me?" And people would hesitate before responding. Once she started using the sing-song trick, the reaction was completely different. The same words, now with a friendly rise at the end, "Can you check this for me?" made her sound open and approachable. She even told me her colleagues began smiling more during conversations. That's the power of good intonation. You can even practice with short dialogues. For example, imagine this exchange. A. Do you want to join us for lunch? B. Yes, I'd love to. Then flip roles and try both sides. Let the question rise at the end and keep the tone friendly and light. This kind of role play, even when you do it alone, helps build muscle memory. Over time, your brain starts to recognize the melody of questions and it becomes automatic. If you're feeling unsure or self-conscious, don't worry. This is totally normal. Intonation isn't something we're usually taught in school, so it takes a bit of practice. But just like learning a new song, the more you repeat it, the more natural it feels. I often remind my listeners, it's not about sounding perfect, it's about being understood and making others feel comfortable. Another way to practice is by shadowing native speakers. Find short clips from interviews, podcasts, or TV shows where people are asking questions. Listen closely and repeat what they say, mimicking their rhythm and tone. You'll start to hear patterns, how the voice rises when it pauses, how it softens or emphasizes certain words. All of these details add richness to your speaking skills. One student from Paris told me she practiced this every morning while brushing her teeth. She would look in the mirror and say things like, "Are you ready for work?" Or, "Is the meeting at 10:00? Using the sing-song intonation. It became a fun daily ritual, and it made a real difference in her confidence. So my tip for you today is simple but powerful. Use the sing-song trick to bring life to your yes or no questions. Think of it as giving your voice a bit of a friendly smile. It's a small change that creates a big impact. You'll sound more natural, more polite, and more like yourself in English. And the best part, you already have everything you need to do it. Just your voice, your curiosity, and a little practice every day. Let's do something together that's really going to help train your ears and your brain to hear and understand question intonation better. This kind of focused listening practice is one of the best ways to build awareness and confidence. And don't worry, we're going to keep it light, just like if we were sitting together in a classroom or chatting over coffee. I want you to imagine I'm going to say the same question into different ways. Your job is to listen closely and ask yourself, which one sounds more natural? Which one actually sounds like a real question? It's okay if you're not sure at first. That's exactly the kind of noticing we're here to develop. Think of it as tuning your ears to the music of English. Let's try the first example. I'll say it in a flat tone. Are you coming with us now? I'll say it again, but this time with a rising intonation at the end, like a question. Are you coming with us? Can you hear the difference? The first one feels more like a statement. It sounds like someone is just giving you information. But the second one clearly feels like a question. It has curiosity in it. It invites an answer. The only difference between them is the tone, the intonation. But that tiny difference has a big impact. Let's break it down. When I use a flat tone, are you coming with us? There's no real emotional cue. It can even feel a little cold or robotic. But when my voice rises, are you coming with us? It becomes warmer and more natural. That rising melody is a signal to the listener. I'm asking you something. Please respond. Let's try another one. First, in a flat tone. Did you see the message? Now, with rising intonation. Did you see the message? Which one feels more like a real question? Most people can hear it once they slow down and really listen. That's the key here. You don't need to rush. Practicing your listening is just as important as practicing your speaking. In fact, many of the improvements in speaking come directly from sharper listening. When I work with students, I often see this moment of realization, this moment when they finally hear what they've been missing. It's like suddenly hearing a note in a song that they'd never noticed before. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And that's when your pronunciation and fluency really start to grow. Now let's go a step further. This time, I'll give you two versions again, and I want you to actually speak your answer out loud. Say first one or second one after you listen. Ready? Here's the first version. Can we start now? Here's the second version. Can we start now? Which one sounds more polite? Which one sounds like you're really checking if the other person is ready? Say it out loud. First one or second one? Great! Most learners say the second one feels more natural. That's because of the rising tone at the end. It makes it sound like you're genuinely asking, not demanding or assuming. Let's try another set. First, is this your bag? Second, is this your bag? Say it out loud, first or second. Which one sounds more like a question? You can repeat this kind of practice on your own too. Try recording yourself saying both versions and playing them back. Or ask a friend to read one version and guess if they're using the rising question tone or not. It becomes like a game, and the more you play, the better your ear gets. I once worked with a learner named Luis from Mexico City. He was already pretty fluent, but people often misunderstood him not because of his vocabulary or grammar, but because of how flat his questions sounded. During meetings, he would ask things like, "Do you agree with that?" And it would sound more like a statement than a question. When he started practicing with this kind of listening, spotting the difference between rising and flat intonation, things started to click. And once he could hear it, he could imitate it. He told me it felt like finding the missing piece of a puzzle. Here's one more pair for you to test yourself with. First version, have you finished the report? Second version, have you finished the report? Which one do you think would make your coworker more likely to respond? Say it out loud. first or second. This kind of focused, simple practice is incredibly powerful, and you don't need hours of study to improve. Just listening to 5 or 10 examples like this every day will gradually tune your ear. You'll start hearing these patterns in conversations, in movies, in podcasts. You'll begin to recognize not just the words people say, but the feeling behind their words. And that's exactly how native speakers communicate through meaning, emotion, and rhythm, not just vocabulary. So my suggestion is this: make listening to intonation part of your daily practice. Even while you're doing something else, cooking, walking, commuting, take a few moments to listen actively. Choose short phrases and pay attention to how they rise and fall. Ask yourself, what emotion is this question carrying? Does it feel like a real question? Over time, your brain will start to copy it naturally. For example, did you see that? Say it like you just saw something amazing. Now say it like you just saw something terrible. Now say it like you're joking with a friend. Are you serious? Try it with genuine shock. Then try it with sarcasm. Then try it with disbelief. Can I help you? Say it like a friendly shop assistant. Now say it like you're annoyed someone is bothering you. Each time, notice how your voice naturally changes. Your pitch rises or falls. Your pace slows down or speeds up. Your volume gets softer or louder. That's not grammar, that's emotion. And that's what makes you sound fluent. Today, I want to share a powerful trick that can transform how your English sounds, especially when you're asking questions. It's something I call the movie scene trick. Let me explain. Imagine the question, is everything okay? Now, picture that line as part of a short movie. Are you a friend checking on someone who looks upset? Are you a boss concerned about a team member? Or maybe you're a parent asking your child after a long day. Each situation will bring a different emotional tone to the question. And guess what? That emotional tone changes your voice. It makes your English sound more alive. One of my students, Lucia from Argentina, once told me that when she tried this method, thinking about a feeling before speaking, she suddenly felt more confident. She used to say she sounded robotic, even though her grammar was perfect. But once she started feeling the question, her voice became expressive. People responded to her more warmly. Conversations felt easier, more natural. Why does this work? Because when you add emotion to your voice, you also make it easier for people to understand you. A monotone voice is harder to follow, especially for native speakers who are used to certain rhythm and melody in speech. Emotion helps you emphasize the right words. It helps you highlight your questions. And even if your grammar isn't perfect, emotion fills the gaps. It gives your English a heartbeat. So if you've ever felt like people didn't get you, if you felt your English sounded stiff, too formal, or just not you, try shifting your focus. Don't just focus on getting the words right. Focus on how you say them. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What do I want the listener to feel? Then let that guide your tone. That's where fluency begins. Not just with memorization, but with expression. Being curious, sounding interested, showing surprise or care or joy. These are the colors of real conversation. And you don't have to learn them from a textbook. You already know how to do this in your own language. Now, it's just about bringing that awareness into your English. So, when you listen to native speakers, don't just focus on the words. Listen to how they use their voice. Notice when their pitch goes up or down, when they pause, when they sound warm or maybe doubtful, when they smile with their voice. Try mimicking not just the sentence, but the feeling behind it. Record yourself and compare. You'll be amazed at how much more engaging and clear your English becomes. Here's something I always remind my students. Your voice is a powerful tool. It's not just for delivering information. It's how you create connection. When you speak with feeling, you invite others into the moment with you. And when people feel that emotion, they remember you, not just your words. Now, let's talk about one of the most common challenges I hear from learners: the tone of your voice when you ask a question. And no, I'm not talking about grammar or vocabulary. I'm talking about your intonation, the rise and fall of your voice. A lot of English learners ask questions with a flat, even tone. It doesn't rise. It doesn't fall. It just stays the same. And that can make your questions sound robotic, or worse, confusing. I say this with love because I know how hard you've worked to get the words right. You've memorized the forms. You've practiced the grammar. But if your voice sounds flat when you say, "Do you like music?" it might not sound like a real question at all. It might even sound like a bored statement. And here's the truth. If you sound like a robot, people might treat you like one. I know that sounds harsh, but it's important. When someone speaks in a monotone, we naturally tune out. We're drawn to voices that move, that show feeling. That's how we recognize interest, friendliness, or curiosity. Flat speech, it feels like reading from a script. It doesn't feel real. Let's try something together right now. Say this question out loud. Do you want some coffee? First say it with a flat tone. No rise, no fall. Do you want some coffee? It doesn't sound like a question, does it? It sounds like a robot or a textbook. Now try again, but this time, lift your voice slightly at the end. Do you want some coffee? That simple rise tells the listener, I'm asking you something. I care about your answer. That's all it takes. I remember Paulo, a student from Brazil. His grammar was solid. Vocabulary? Excellent. Listening skills? Great. But whenever he asked a question, his voice was totally flat. He would say things like, "Can you help me? Is this your bag?" People sometimes didn't respond not because they were rude, but because they didn't realize he was asking something. After just a few sessions focusing on intonation, Paulo came back and said, "Julia, people actually answer me now. They even make eye contact." That's what using your voice can do. Let me give you a few more examples. Say this out loud with a flat tone. Is she coming? Now say it with a rising tone. Is she coming? Totally different, right? How about, do you live around here? With a flat tone, it sounds cold. With a rise, it's friendly, open, conversational. Even WH questions like, what time is it? These usually have a falling intonation at the end, but they should still have movement. Not, what time is it? But, what time is it? Your voice rises a little in the middle, then falls. It feels more complete, more human. I often give my students this exercise. Record yourself asking 5 common questions. Then listen back. Does your voice rise or fall? Does it move or stay flat? Most of the time, they realize they sound too robotic. Then we work on exaggerating the intonation on purpose. We overdo the rise. At first, it feels weird, but then they find the balance. You don't need to sound dramatic. You just need to sound real. Another student, Aiko from Japan, once told me, I feel safer when I keep my voice flat, and I completely understood her. In some cultures, a neutral tone is polite. It shows calm and respect, but in English, especially in everyday conversation, flat speech can sound distant or even disinterested. So we started small, just adding a gentle rise to her yes or no questions. And you know what? Her speech began to sound more inviting, more connected. It felt like a conversation, not a script. And that's my message for you today. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need a perfect accent. But if you can bring your questions to life, if you can add just a little emotion, a little rise or fall in your voice, you will sound more fluent. You will feel more confident, and people will respond to you more naturally. Your voice is not just sound, it's your story, it's your heart, it's your connection to the world. So keep practicing, keep listening, and most of all, keep feeling your words, because that's where real English fluency lives. Thanks for being here with me on English Without Limit. I'm Julia, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep rising, keep asking, keep connecting. You've got this. If you've been using the same tone for every question, don't worry. You are not alone. This is one of the most common habits among English learners, especially those who've studied mostly through textbooks or in quiet classrooms. But here's the good news, it's also one of the easiest habits to fix. Once you become aware of it, all it takes is a little conscious practice. So let's get practical. Try this today. Pick 5 yes or no questions and say them with a rising tone at the end. Then pick 5 WH questions like what, where, why, and say them with a falling tone. And here's the key, don't make them flat. Let your voice move. Let it rise. Let it fall. Now, record yourself. Listen back. Then try again. Each time, let your voice express the meaning behind the question. Feel what you're saying and your voice will follow. This is how you shift from sounding like a learner to sounding like a communicator. So next time you speak, don't just focus on the words. Listen to your tone. Ask yourself, am I using the same pitch all the time? Does this sound like a real question or like a line from a robot? Then make one small change. Let your voice move, because that movement brings your English to life. Let me share a story about a student of mine, Carla, from São Paulo. Carla had strong English vocabulary and grammar. She had even moved to Toronto for work, but something wasn't clicking when she spoke. She would ask questions like, "You like music?" But because her tone was flat, it sounded like a statement, not a question. So, instead of sparking a friendly conversation, people looked confused. They didn't know whether she was asking for their opinion or just making a comment. At first, Carla was frustrated. She thought, my English is correct. Why is this happening? And that's when we uncovered the problem, intonation, the rise and fall of her voice. For native English speakers, a sentence like, "You like music," with no rise in pitch sounds like a fact. But when you ask it with a rising tone, "You like music?" Now it's clearly a question. So Carla and I started practicing. She began to gently raise her pitch at the end of yes or no questions. At first, it felt a little strange. She had to think about it, but soon it became second nature. She practiced in front of a mirror. She recorded herself. She even tried it at work, and something amazing happened. People responded immediately, with smiles, with enthusiasm, because now they understood what she was asking and they felt invited to respond. One day, Carla told me about a team meeting. She needed to ask her coworkers if they were ready for a presentation. Before she would say, "You ready?" Flat, unclear. But now she said, "You ready?" With the right rising tone. Her team responded, "Yes, we are." And everyone smiled. That tiny shift made her English sound warmer, friendlier, and more effective. So, what can we learn from Carla? Even if you use the right words, how you say them matters just as much. Flat questions sound like statements, and that can create confusion or missed connections. But a gentle rise at the end of your yes or no questions, that changes everything. It makes your English clearer, your questions more effective, your conversations more natural. So let me ask you, are your questions sounding like real questions or like statements? If they sound too flat, don't worry. You can fix this just like Carla did. Here's another simple way to practice. Listen to this question. Are you coming to the party? Can you hear how my voice rises at the end? That rise tells the listener, I'm curious. I'm asking something. Now try saying it yourself. Let your voice go up just a bit at the end. Next example. Where did you put my keys? Hear the fall at the end? That's natural for WH questions. Try copying that falling tone when you say it. Don't worry about being perfect at first. This is about building awareness. Get used to how questions are supposed to feel in your mouth and sound to your ear. One great tool is echo repetition. All you need is a video, podcast, or TV show in English. Pause after a question and repeat it. Copy the tone. Copy the rhythm. Copy the feeling. Some of my students say this simple method helped them overcome their fear of speaking, because instead of thinking about grammar, they focused on copying the sound. It also helps you understand native speakers better because now you're paying attention to the emotional music of English, not just the words. Here's another tip. Record yourself. Ask 5 questions out loud. Listen back. Do you hear a rise at the end of your yes or no questions? Do your WH questions have a natural fall? Or does your voice stay flat the whole time? If it's too flat, try again. Exaggerate it a little if you have to. Eventually, your voice will start doing it naturally even in real conversations. You can practice different types of questions. Yes/no questions. Do you like coffee? Is it raining today? WH questions. What time is it? Where are you going? And here's a fun bonus tip. Try adding emotion to the questions. Are you curious? Surprised? Doubtful? Let your voice show that feeling. Because speaking English isn't just about grammar. It's about communication. It's about connection. So why does echo repetition work so well? Because it trains both your brain and your mouth. It helps you move from knowing the right words to saying them the right way. It closes the gap between understanding and expression. Many learners know what to say, but not how to say it. This technique solves that. So if you haven't tried it yet, I want to challenge you. Here's your task for today. Record yourself asking 5 questions. Make it a mix of yes or no and WH questions. Use your phone, nothing fancy. Think about your tone. Be intentional. Then listen back and ask, do I sound natural? Do I sound curious? Does my voice rise and fall, or is it flat? You can even compare with a native speaker, maybe from this podcast. Notice what works and where you can improve. And remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about progress, about becoming more aware, more expressive. It's okay to feel a little awkward at first. Most learners do, but don't let that stop you. Your voice is like a musical instrument. You can tune it with practice, and the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Try recording 5 questions once a week. Make it a habit. Over time, it will feel more natural and your English will sound more fluent. You'll notice in real conversations, your questions feel more alive. People respond more quickly, more warmly. You're not just speaking English anymore. You're connecting with people. That's the power of intonation. So are you ready? Grab your phone, pick your 5 questions, record yourself, and start noticing the difference. Celebrate every little step, because every repetition is progress. And every recording brings you closer to confidence. This is your journey, and I'm here cheering you on every step of the way. Thanks for being here with me on English Without Limit. I'm Julia, and I'll see you in the next episode. And remember, your voice matters. So speak with feeling, speak with confidence, and speak without limits. You've got this.